right, Oval fans. Now, honestly, I really wanted to wait until after this week's episode aired before I did the video, but a lot of people have been pointing out that they feel sorry for the kids. It was the video I did about do you feel sorry for Gayle, given the fact that it looks like she's about to be assaulted by some of Picky's thug members, but it looks like Kyle and some of his team arrive in order to save Gayle at the 11th hour, but it doesn't look like she came out unscathed because it looked like she got a black eye and some bruises when she was in the limousine with Victoria before she jumped out of the limousine because she would rather be risking her life by throwing herself out of a moving vehicle than being in the same vehicle as her mother. So honestly, again, I wanted to wait to do this until after this week's episode, but you all know in a previous video I posted, or one I recorded before this one, I had a huge eBay haul to carry to the post office Monday morning. I had 90 envelopes. The women in there know me well because I've been doing this for over a year, the eBay thing, and they were happy to help me put stamps on everything. But we got to talking about the Oval, and one of them was like, "Oh, you ready for the Oval this week, honey?" Because when that girl threw herself out of the out of the car, I was like, "Yep." And even she agreed that maybe the kids should have been aged up a bit because I don't think teenagers fits them very well. Because Paige heard, she's like, "Don't you know that girl that plays Gayle is like 26, 27?" I'm like, "Yeah, Paige heard she was on Everybody Hates Chris. She's a little younger than I am, I believe. We're close to the same age because I'm 28. Just throwing that out there." Anyway, the question is, do you feel sorry for the kids? Because trust and believe, these aren't your average run-of-the-mill children. These are kids who have been raised in the public eye from birth due to the fact that they're in the White House now. But even before then, we've gotten a lot of intel about them being in the governor's mansion. But even before that, in the episode The Dark Sheep, we pretty much get the idea that Victoria only married Hunter for the sake of unlocking her own potential. And by doing so, and based off dialogue between the multiple characters, it's clear that neither Hunter nor Victoria have ever really been there for their children. I mean, do you think the only reason they had kids to begin with was for the sake of building up the all-American family, or at least the diversity of the American family nowadays between different races, genders, whatever the situation is? But, you know, for a political standpoint, it looks good to have children. Honestly, I wouldn't know, but kind of like Jim and Catherine, I think Hannah even made a reference to this once when Catherine was talking about how awful it is being with Jim. It's like, well, you had sex with him at least twice. We know that for sure, in reference to Amanda and Wyatt. But here's what we do know. It seems to me that neither of the children can tolerate Victoria whatsoever. In the last episode, when both parents were looking for intel from Jason about where Gayle went, Jason flat out said, "Only in front of you, Dad. I'm not talking in front of her." I don't know if it's because, well, I think after he told Hunter where Gayle was going, he was like, you know, "She's wicked, Dad," and everything like that. So here's how I look at it. I think, and this is just, again, my interpretation, guys, because we don't have that much information, but I think that Gayle probably got the most in terms of discipline from Victoria just because she's so headstrong and, well, as old people just say, hard-headed and don't know how to listen. And Victoria probably sees a lot of herself in Gayle to an extent. I think that Gayle gets a lot of her wild tendencies from her father, but at the same time, you can also say that Victoria is treating Gayle how she was treated growing up because she was literally the dark sheep of the family. So one could argue that Victoria is projecting her own childhood, her own, I guess you could say, less than stellar relationship with her mother. She's taking out that trauma and aggression out on her own daughter. So that's how I look at that. I think Jason pretty much was the child that was like, "I'm just going to keep to myself," pretty much developing his creeper persona. I mean, honestly, look, the way he just sneaks around and everything, that just shows you right there that he's a background player. You know, well, I don't mean play like player, fool, walk around naked and everything. But I'm talking about the fact that he probably saw how his mother treated Gayle, and that's when he gets his own perception of Victoria being wicked, just based off how he was seeing his sister being treated. And because of that, he pretty much decides to stray away because, put it this way, notice he said he wouldn't talk in front of Victoria in reference to where Gayle was. Now, if this had nothing to do with Gayle whatsoever, I'm willing to bet Jason might have, given the intel over, but he figured that if I tell my mom where Gayle is, she's going to be the one going down there like a bat out of hell and then rain her wrath down on my sister, and I don't want that. Even if you go back to episode 1, when Jason was in the room with Gayle trying to help her get dressed and everything, yeah, definitely got some creeper vibes there during the first episode, but he even goes back into the room after Victoria left because he knew that his sister just got chewed out and threatened by their own mother. So let's put the creepiness aside, and obviously I would not be shocked if he has seen his sister getting dressed multiple times. I know that sounds creepy, but that's his character. But aside from that, I do think he really does feel bad for his sister when he witnesses how wicked Victoria is towards her. So I definitely see a lot of Gayle's tendencies coming from the fact that she has a harsh relationship with her parents, who are rarely ever. It's like those parents that don't raise their kids because they're always in the public eye or whatever the situation is. They're focused on careers and their own appearances and their own things that they do behind closed doors. But when they catch their kids acting out of line, they'll just bring the hammer down on them, which causes a huge rift in between the two. But given the fact that Gayle honestly isn't above throwing herself at someone she finds attractive, that's definitely Hunter right there. And then Jason, once again, I really do think his persona comes from observing and knowing how to stay out of the way. But at the same time, yeah, he should definitely work on his people skills. But I don't really know who he gets that from. I mean, the calculating side and everything, I would say he gets that from Victoria, because Victoria is obviously the one who plans and everything out. But her Achilles heel is once again her being made aware of what people are saying about her and things like that, because the only 2 times we really saw her freak out were when Hunter was reading off the threat list and tweets and whatever the public was saying about her. That's what set her off, aside from, catching up with Hunter's horse. But Hunter, just based off his persona when it comes to how he takes care of his job in the White House, which he doesn't, I feel like he's the same way as a parent. Even Victoria has said multiple times since, when do you give a damn about your kids? So despite her wickedness and harsh ways, you could argue that Victoria was probably the one who had more to do with raising the kids, if you want to call it raising. But she was definitely one of those parents where you better not make a scene in the store. She was definitely one of those mothers that had that speech in the car where, hey, we're going to get A, B, and C when it comes to what's on this grocery list. Don't you be looking at no toys. Don't you be touching no toys. That kind of stuff. And Hunter just was doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted it, with whomever he wanted to do with. But as Victoria told Max, hey, it comes down to everyone else having to clean up his own messes. So it's almost like, Victoria is trying to, just like Veronica, create this picture perfect lifestyle. And if any of her family members gets out of line or does anything to tarnish that picture perfect family, she will rain hell down on them. So kind of like Priscilla, I do feel bad for the kids. I'm not saying that, and like I said in the video about Gayle, I do not wish that kind of assault on anyone. But and I'm not victim shaming either, because trust, we live in that day and age where it's like, oh, she shouldn't have been wearing that, and no. She should not have been in that area, regardless if she wasn't the first. Well, is it the first children, like the first daughter or whatever? Basically, the daughter of the current sitting president. She should not have been in that part of town by herself. That was just jacked up. I mean, I feel bad. But in the next episode, it looks like she'll just toss herself out of a vehicle. So she's not against getting some, bruises. And I mean, based off her parents fighting all the time, her killing it. But with that being said, what do you think? Do you feel sorry for these kids? Do you think that I think I did not do a video on this before, but I think that, or at least a social media post, I think Priscilla and Gayle might get a bit closer as the season progresses. I could definitely see that happening. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think we'll find out about the family dynamic of the Franklins as the season progresses? Do you think Victoria will open up to her kids? Do you think she'll finally, be the mother that they need her to be? Or will she just remain the strict disciplinarian that she seemed to be ever since they were inside the womb. I don't know. But guys, we need less than 350 people to reach 100,000. So we are almost there. Let's keep the momentum up and give this video a thumbs up. Check me out on social media. Links are in the description below, and I will talk to you all in the next video.